Kia ora, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Cambridge Community Board meeting for September. I'll just start by opening with a karakia. E te atua kaha rawa, ho mai ki a mātou ti kaha, ki te whai atu I ngā huarahi tika, mo tēnei hui I tēnei rā, tihei Māori ora. To the great creator, give us the strength to follow the correct pathway for our meeting today. Blessing be to life. Right, our apologies. We just have one apology. I see Sue isn't here yet, so and I haven't heard from her, so we'll just wait and see. But we have an apology from Councillor Coles, who is away tonight. And the rest of us are here. We have Councillor Montgomery on Zoom. Can you hear us, Mike? Yes, you can. Perfect. Right. Disclosure of members' interests. Anything in our agenda tonight that anyone... Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry, we just need to move that apology. Alana, and I'll second that. Thank you. Right. So no disclosure of members' interest at all?
Joe, just from me.
No? Oh, yes.
The plan change 25 item, item 7, I'll reserve my decision-making capacity at the council level on that one.
Okay,
And
perfect.
just listen with interest. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Okay, right. Now, in our public forum, we have Reese Powell, who's come to talk to us about the quarry application. Reese, welcome. Come and sit here, and you just need to make sure that that purple button with the talk button is pushed, and then it means that people at home can hear you. Yeah, just that talk button. That's it. Perfect. Right.
All right.
Welcome. Nice to see you.
My name's Reese Powell. I am a Cambridge resident, ratepayer. My experience is also, a background as a mining guy. So most of my career has been overseas in mining. There's probably very few, if any, people in New Zealand that's probably mined and shipped as much quantities as myself. Probably done over 250 million tonnes, so it's on a different scale than New Zealand. There is a mining application. You guys call it a quarry, but we call it mining. Here in Cambridge, and it's right on the outskirts of Cambridge, next door to the golf course, Cambridge Golf Course. So if you imagine the Cambridge Golf Course, there's a road there, a little slip road called Newcombe Road, where the application is. The applicant is Fulton Hogan. Right? These guys are not small. These guys are big. They're not from Cambridge. They don't do things by anything small. This will be your biggest application of anything of this size in the history of Cambridge. Right? This will dwarf any other application that has been in the past or in the future. Now, the big concern for, say, the Cambridge residents or the people would be the traffic flow. The application is for 400 trucks per day. Now, to put that at 400 trucks using the NZTA calculator is 10 times. So a truck is equivalent to 10 cars. So that's 4,000 cars per day, 6 days a week. Okay. NZTA, we've already said at the moment, and during this application, you've got to look at where it is right now. There is no on-ramp or off-ramp on the southern side. It may happen in the future, but not while this application is viewed. It's already been declared that it be publicly notified, so it's too big to just be approved. Okay, 4,000 cars per day. Now, as we know, Cambridge had the bypass, took the trucks off the road, and now you're back up to the same levels, if not worse. We've been living here for 8 years, and we think Cambridge is actually worse now than when State Highway 1 went through. I think it's one of the main factors of people concerned in Cambridge as well. If you look at the share of where the customers are, if you were coming from the golf course, the majority of your customers are to the north. Let's not beat around the bush. It will be Hamilton, Cambridge and all that, which means the trucks come through over the low level bridge, through Carter's Flat, which you're trying to push, which you're trying to develop, up past Queen Street, past KFC, McDonald's, and up through those pet crossings and past the schools, okay? Also, when they're coming back, they will come down Victoria Road or Cambridge Road to get back to that quarry. The bypass is getting done by NZTA, and people were talking about, oh, the trucks will go down and turn around and do a glorified U-turn on State Highway 1 down at Highgate Road. It's not going to happen. No one's going to U-turn a truck and trailer across that State Highway 1 on the Karapia Road. So let's be real. When the bypass, when they do fix it up, it'll be down Karapia. It will add, to go for Cambridge, you're going to add about 14 Ks onto your journey. If you go that way, at $4 roughly a kilometre, people are not going to do it. People will take the shortest route, which is through Cambridge. If you are turning from the golf course, you're not going to go do a glorified U-turn down at Karapia. Nobody will. You will drive north. Okay? You will go, you'll turn right at the golf course and go through. We have requested from Waipawa District Council to be fair and clean about this one. We have seen the Waipawa District Council already advise the applicants that there were information requests in, tipped off the applicant, and the applicant is replying strategically. We've also seen false information from the applicant, which does not match the applicant. We've also seen in Waipawa District Council, the consultant that does the application also processes resource consents for council as well. Is that perceived conflict of interest? Yes. We've said to council before, be clean about this. But it's going to wreck your town at that many trucks. Even if you go 3/4 of traffic going northbound, there's 3,000 vehicles.
Reese, we've got your presentation behind you if you wish to. Oh, it's just the one page, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, it's got no cord, so take it with you. That way
Okay.
people can hear you. Sorry, it's annoying, but
But
it can
I'm
travel.
over 5 minutes. That's okay.
Yeah.
So here's a site here, and there's a sort of a little run road, goes down the side of when you get off State Highway 1. Interestingly, the trucks there, NZTA, have said it's dangerous to turn. You don't have line of sight. That's why they've requested you to turn around the trucks down on that roundabout, which was in the previous meeting here. But they will come out down here. If you're turning here, you will take the shortest route as a truck. There's no doubt about it. And they're not all trucks by Fulton Hogan. They're contractors. So a contractor, they have no control over the trucks. They'll go northbound. This site here is a really big one. What is really bad is that this is a cultural landscape alert area. I don't know what the council defined as alert, but when they even consulted the iwi, they didn't even say that's a policy area. It's a cultural landscape alert area. Right? We've had one of the leaders of the iwi say, oh, don't touch that. It was even on Channel 3. But all of this information, cultural landscape alert, like it's a big policy, wasn't even disclosed to the iwi or anything. And council didn't even pick it up to say, oh, guys, what have we got? Like in that cultural impact statement, if people know where the Haratui Pa is, it's the end of Athlone Road. In that cultural impact statement, it showed it in the middle of a paddock. Waipawa District Council look after that reserve, that Haratui Pa, end of Athlone Road. It's really big. It's even got a sign by everyone saying this is the Haratui Pa. But the applicant puts it in the middle of a paddock somewhere else, right? Like there's so much stuff in this that we can identify and put it through, and it's just diabolical. But we also requested a fair process on this, but we're not seeing it.
All right, thank you, Reese. Questions? for Reece on this one? And
Yeah, thank you. Just at the start there, you just talked about how you're a mining expert.
Yes.
Then you went to talk a lot about traffic. Maybe go back to the mining. Tell me more about what's going to be mined there and the size of the mine and that mining activity, please.
It's they're mining sand, basically, pit sand. They'll be mining that. It's relatively, to mine pit sand is a lot of trucks, a lot of movement, a lot of processing. The processing is difficult because of you've got to clean it a lot. So they're looking at using their applicant in for the water take is 1.4 million litres per day. To give you an example, here in Cambridge, you'll put up your Save Water sign soon. But then just down the road, you've got 1.4 million litres. So that's 1.4 kilometres of those IBCs lined up each day, or equivalent of a garden hose all the way to Los Angeles of water per day. That's how big this applicant is. Now, when the same applicant put their consent in and they got it approved, and the same commissioner that Fulton Hogan got approved their quarry is the single one that Waipa District Council have jointly appointed as well. One person.
any further, Andrew?
I mean, it's made a statement at the end about it's not fair. I just remember you saying that word. Can you just clarify more about that?
Well, tipping them off about requests into the Information Act. Waipa should not be doing that. That's unethical. They should have done their research on who the commissioner is and seeing if they've worked for or approved previous quarries by Fulton Hogan. Also, they should be much cleaner in their consultants. They've paid one consultant $1.4 million over 3 years. Same consultant processed resource consents for Waipa District Council. Same consultant is the one for the applicant. Now, they're so tight in Waipa District Council, they'll be sharing information. If they paid them $1.4 million, they're pretty close. So there's 3 points. Yeah. Would that pass a cleanness test? No, not at all.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Reece. Appreciate your passion and knowledge on the topic. A statement you made was this will ruin the town. I'd love to hear your thoughts more on how you think that will negatively impact Cambridge. Obviously, it's a traffic movement issue, but tell me more what you sort of are worried about for the future.
Well, you're going to have a lot of dust. Got to have a lot of heavy trucks. You put the State Highway 1 as a bypass. Putting 3,000, well, let's just say 3/4 of the traffic goes northbound is 3/4 demand. You put 3,000 equivalent cars on the road per day, you're going to have a lot of congestion. People will avoid Cambridge to stop even for lunch. It will be known as a bit of a mining town. Why he got that reputation, it's a really frowned upon word over in Australia to be a mining town. You don't want to be called it, right? People will not move here. With no other equestrian people, we wouldn't move here again. We wouldn't move to Cambridge. Like, why? You know, you must just move somewhere else. You don't want to live next door to mine. Mining and horses don't mix. So you've got to decide on what you want as a town. And now clean. And bear in mind, Waipa, the region doesn't receive any royalties or anything like that. You don't get any money. You don't have the fuel that they buy is not local. They don't take a dump truck down to the fuel station here. There is nothing local about it. There's no local jobs. You don't get anything. All you do is get a little bit of contribution to the roads. That's it. Like, you don't get any money, but it will cost you because you're also going to face probably class actions as well, which is happening over in Australia already.
Just extrapolate on what you think the class actions would be in relation to.
If you're negligent, if Waipa District Council are negligent and they don't pick up something, they will face class action. So you're staring down a barrel. So it's quite easy to, but the process right now is not what we would call clean.
Andrew?
You said 400 trucks a day. Are there any other equivalent mines or industry sites that you know of that operate with similar movements that you can give us, that we'll get an idea of say APL, how many truck moves would they do a day, or
I think-
Beacon Hill Quarry that used to, or
Oh, the Beacon Hill,
the Kaipeki Sand Quarries, how many truck moves were they doing a day? Do you know?
the Beacon Hill quarry that the councillor was running an illegal sand mine, that one? Yeah, not even close. And for the record, we were the guys, when we did not hear it clean play fair, we're the guys that threw that onto the bus.
How does the Kaipaki Sand Quarry compare in size to this one?
But 100 trucks, quarter. But if you look at Kaipaki, it's off the road, you can't really see it. It's down, you can't really, it's visual from the road, it's not taking out a riverbank, what these are here. The cultural importance is not as much. I don't have a big problem with that one. It's not too bad. You do need resources around to fill them. But this is next level.
So is it the scale of this quarry that concerns you the most? Like if there was a smaller operation happening on that site, would that cause you the same concern?
You got to be a much smaller operation, but Fulton Hogan don't do anything by small. You know, they're not running, run a small quarry. And, you got to be, when these applicants go through, it's a variation in the consent that you were. They will normally always go for variations. Kaipaki, for example, they went for variation pretty much straight away. They get their foot in the door and they go for variation. Fulton Hogan did it down the line where council went, oh, we'll put conditions on them. They appealed to 13 of the 14 consents and got them all overturned. Bingo, just rolled them all. Like you're dealing with a monster, but the problem is that you got to understand what you're doing and go to the right questions. Yeah. And one thing about the traffic, I'll just sort of say, because this just helps you in future as well. We don't use other countries in that. We don't use these little road traffics. I don't know if you guys ever use Google Maps or a car. It will show the congestion on the roads. It will show it orange or red. Right? All that data is collected and is used by some companies around the world to predict the future traffic flows of roads and towns. So they do it in America where they're using the AI tools and using that data that's collected and showing where the hotspots are. Then they add it in. How they work down here is you just try to get some expert traffic guy that writes a report. But there's more to it than that. The data is available. You just got to use the right company, but they're overseas. They're in America. So, but yeah, put some science behind it. Make it smart. You can put 4,000 cars on the road. I know what it will say. It's all red.
Interesting. Any further questions for Reece at all? Okay, thank you, Reece. That was really interesting. That sounds like something we need to be thinking about further, talking to council staff. It's not going to be going away. So we'll look forward to seeing
It's
you
out
again.
for public consent, so anyone, no matter who it is, can put a question in and they have to reply, no matter who it is.
Okay, that's good intel. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, I don't think there's anyone else in our public forum, so we will carry on. Right, let's just go through and confirm our minutes from our August meeting. I'm happy to move that. Someone else second? Elise, thank you. All in favour? Say aye. Yep. Okay, carried. Thank you. Right, Melissa, welcome. We're going to hear from Melissa about our long-term plan progress. Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Hello. Feels like
Hi.
I've only just been here.
Yes, you have. And I feel like I've just been with you on the other side doing LTP stuff.
Cool. So the purpose of this report is to just provide a bit of an update on the development of the 25-34 long-term plan and just noting progress since your last meeting, which wasn't that long ago. So since then, 2 workshops have been held with elected members. So the first one being on the 27th of August, which really focused on the finance strategy and our financial starting position. So discussing that with our elected members and then the options available to I guess, kind of alleviate the rates moving forward. And then the second one being on the 10th of September, which is obviously early in the week, starting to consider some of the major projects that we'll be looking at to possibly include in this long-term plan or otherwise. So happy to take questions.
Questions for Melissa? The workshop that I attended on the 10th was very much like a high level look at the projects and really the strategy around the LTP. It wasn't so much a time for everyone to come in and fight for their projects, although I was ready to do that for our library. I had all my facts ready, but will that time come where, you know, the community board will be able to come and just really push for those projects that we're really hoping to see in the LTP?
That's a great question. So we are having to look at what the program looks like for the project moving forward, and we don't at this stage know what that includes. So
Okay.
with respect to projects, there might be one more opportunity for that.
Okay.
But we're not sure yet, so I'm kind of
Okay.
reluctant
That's all
to
right.
commit to anything either way.
If we had other ideas surrounding some of those projects that maybe might not make the LTP, but we had some other ideas around those projects, is there an opportunity for us to feed that in as well?
My advice to you and the board would be don't do that sooner rather than
Okay.
later. So we might be able to accommodate some of those, or they might already be in the draft in a detailed format. But yeah,
Okay,
I
sooner
mean,
rather
we're
than
aware
later.
of your strategic plan
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, I guess if there's anything that you'd really like to see
Mm,
sooner rather than later, but we've also got the consultation
right.
phase as well.
Okay.
We're looking sort of March, April.
Okay.
next year.
And that would be another good opportunity for us to say, if not
yeah,
this, what about
yes,
this?
definitely.
Or
Yeah.
if we can't have that, could this work?
Yeah.
Those kind of conversations. Okay. Some further questions for Melissa on the LTP?
Yeah,
Please.
Madam Chair. What I've been trying to wrap my head around, understanding the real restraints in funding for the council and planning their future projects is what our role can be in these next few steps, because I think we know there's not a lot of coin in the bank for the things that are aligned to our strategic priorities. And as Joe said, if there's peripheral things we can be thinking of, we can bring them to you. But, you know, failing that opportunity to say, oh, what about this cool project? What are ways that you think that we can be doing our job well around this long-term plan process and partnering with you well and feeding into it in a helpful way, I guess, whether that's with you or with the community, in fact. So yeah, some thoughts on that would be
Really good question. So I think through the consultation phase will be a really key role, both I guess in terms of advocating for your community in terms of what ends up in the plan, but also using your networks as an opportunity to promote that the consultation is going on, you know, get the messages out to the community in terms of what we are looking at and encouraging others to make a submission as well.
Kirsty, did you have anything further just to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just also to reference the public consultation process that we're going to be commencing in early October on Ahuakia Waipa Community Spatial Plan. So as the Community Board is well aware, that will provide a 30-year blueprint for our whole of district moving forward. That will help to inform all of our future planning, prioritisation, investment, service and project delivery. So it has helped to set the strategic direction for this next long-term plan. I think it also includes an implementation plan with specific reference to implementation actions and the phasing of those. It would be helpful for the community board to work alongside us once we develop up that community engagement program for Ahuaki, because that too is a precursor to the long-term plan. So we're looking to, the intention from elected members is to reconnect with those communities that we engaged with in 2023. So if you can be part of that too, that will be great, and submit to that process. Encourage you to do that. Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Through the chair, one thing that I have been wondering about is the wellbeings. I know the Prime Minister's announcement at the LGNZ conference, it's not legislation yet, but when would that change come in, and are we at the risk of having to redo things?
So look, thanks, Alana. This is something that that elected members and executive will be further discussing. And we haven't got an organisational position on it. Obviously, council has invested significant time and funds developing our planning, and I've just talked about Ahuaki. That is prefaced on community wellbeing and the 4 wellbeings. We have heard of a council who has recently removed reference to all wellbeing from a document that they are developing. I think that my personal view, and I can only speak to my personal view, is that that would be a knee-jerk reaction. That, you know, governments change, policies change, but if you turn your mind back to 2009, when wellbeings weren't in the Local Government Act, that was a really great time for Waipa developing strategies, environment strategy, economic development strategy in 2012. There were a number of strategies that were developed. In terms of services that were provided, do they look significantly different to what we deliver now? No. And our vision, our community vision is very clear. To build connected communities, wellbeing is at the heart of that. You know, when we went out to engage with the community in 2023, we heard very strongly and clearly about the importance of connection and well-being. Times are tough, and so how do we best connect with our community? You know, council provides core services, and the work that we've done in developing Anchor Institution framework and work program, again, it's prefaced on community wellbeing and connection. It's initiatives that are to be undertaken to increase efficiency and effectiveness. That kind of is what the government too is seeking. So yeah, no organisational position to come, but I wouldn't be expecting significant change or I guess reversal of our current policies and planning underway.
Right. Any further questions? Andrew?
Just the Cambridge Connections project. I just reading there about infrastructure strategy. Does that include discussions about Cambridge Connections at those workshops?
So, Cambridge Connections wouldn't be discussed specifically through the infrastructure strategy, but one of the points that I noted through the projects workshop earlier this week is that we will be basically coming back to elected members to have a specific workshop on Cambridge Connections and any kind of budgeting requirements for this long-term plan.
Anything further? No, that's a good update. I understand there is a lot more to come. I've got a few questions, but they're months ahead, so I'll save them but yeah, you guys are doing a really good job, and especially that last report was so well written and really easy to understand and straightforward. And again, we really appreciate being part of the process. And it just means we can understand the process really well from the inside, but also we can really feed into it, which is so important. And we'll continue to do that over the next few months. And yeah, thank you for these updates. They're really helpful. Thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so
I just
sorry.
wanted Just wanted to add one comment there.
Please.
Waipa District Council's becoming increasingly constrained financially, and that's both in terms of debt capacity and in terms of rates affordability for everyone in Waipa. So I just encourage the this community board in its development to sort of have a increasing awareness of that over time, because up till now the community board's kind of been coming up with great ideas and then council's kind of been knocking them back. That's sort of how the mode's been operating. But so I just encourage the community board to start thinking about both sides of the coin. So these are the great projects, and for the board to increasingly keep building its understanding of the resource constraints that we're operating in. And I just think it would be, it's good development for the board, and it leads to a richer contribution to the debate at council if the board's increasingly looking at both sides of the coin, the opportunity, but also the costs. Okay, that's my only thing. And I mean, I just think it'd be good, really good for this board and for its contribution into council.
Yes, good point. Excellent point. Right, thank you, Melissa. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Right, so we just need to move that we receive Melissa's report. I'm happy to move that. Could I have someone second, Alana? And all in favour? Say aye. Thank you. That's carried. Right, discretionary funding and sister cities annual costs. And I'm just going to hand over to Jo for this.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report here that you've got this evening is to, prior to your discretionary funding round, is to consider what money you need to set aside from your discretionary pool for your projects. So we've got listed in there some costs for Anzac Day. There has been some initial conversations, email conversations with the working group, because appreciate that it's quite far out from Anzac Day at this time. But we wanted to make sure that. Yep. Oh, yes, we've got. Yep, we've got Anzac Day and we've got Armistice, so we've got both of them in there. So we've. Yes. So we've got the because we've got to set the Anzac comes out of your discretionary grant budget, and then you're right. The sister cities will also need to set in this budget to your Armistice Day, because that is fast approaching and detailed planning is happening on that. So it also recommends that you set aside 2,500 plus GST from your sister cities fund for your Armistice Day service this year. And then we just have at recommendation D, we have a number of annual costs for the Sister Cities project. That's for your annual Sister Cities membership, which we need to pay, and some that are linked with the website. We are at E, just returning some funds for the Sister Cities membership, but that's more about timing of the invoice. So we had some set aside from last year, but the way we're doing it is we're just going to pay that, return the sum that's outstanding, that's sitting in your committed, and then agree to pay the annual fee. And then it'll be processed if you approve it. And then we also have previously in the past, every year you have looked at contributing to the installation and repair of the Christmas tree lights. And I have included in your report just some costs that we have had from previous year, and have included a sum in there for 1,500, but you can obviously decide for any of these, whatever amounts you would like to include. Any question?
No, I don't think so. That's all straightforward from me. Obviously, unfortunately, some of our costs for certain things do increase year on year. So our sound and things like that, they do go up. Hence why it's a little bit, we're trying to cut costs wherever we can, aren't we? But some things just, and we want good sound, we want good lighting, we want people to be able to hear, and for the services especially to be very meaningful, and audio and visual is a huge part of that. Yeah, any questions for that? I'm happy with that. Anyone? No? Okay. All right, so we need to do a few things. Firstly, we'll do it all together in one resolution, can we?
Just pass it.
Okay. Yep. Okay, all right, I'll move that. Elise, thank you. So that's receiving Joe's report, and do you want to go through and do each individual one, or are you happy?
Okay, so you pass A, so you can now
Yep.
pass B and B to F together. if you
Okay,
want.
let's do that. Is everyone happy to pass those all together? Okay, I'll move that, and Alana will second. All in favour? So thank you. Right, that's moved. Thank you very much. Right, thank you, Joe. Okay, Alice and Nathan, welcome. So we are going to hear from Alice and Nathan on draft plan change 25, shelter belts and artificial crop protection structures. Nice to see you both. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, Nathan and I are going to do a bit of a tag team. So, and we're going to, because we can't see the screen, we're going to share the button. So, hopefully we'll be able to coordinate correctly, but bear with us. So tonight, we're here to present draft plan change 25 to you. You may have seen through the media feeds that the web page has gone live, and we're out for public engagement at the moment, which is part of the wider community engagement, is to present to the community boards and the ward committee as part of reaching that wider rural and collective community. So the feedback that we do receive will then go to be looking at what the draft plan provisions that have been circulated are like now, and whether or not there are any more refinement that is needed before the plan change process continues. I'll pass over to Nathan now.
So just a word on background. So we have observed recently that horticulture and associated shelter belts and crop protection structures are becoming more common in rural Waipa. And concern has been raised over the effectiveness of the district plan currently to address these activities and their effects.
Oh, sorry. Last night's session was very not so that's on very good.
Sweet. So for context, just sketching a bit of how the current district plan deals with these activities. So presently, horticulture falls under the district plan's definition of farming activities and is permitted within the rural zone. Crop protection structures, meaning like the crop covering cloth, are captured under the district plan definition for buildings. That is, they don't presently have their own bespoke definition. Crop protection structures are permitted within the rural zone as accessory buildings to the permitted farming activities. However, notwithstanding this, they by their nature typically require resource consent for falling afoul of some building control standards, for example, setbacks or building coverage, site coverage. Shelter belts permitted within the rural zone and are presently managed by a planting rule that sets out a resource consent requirement if the species planted is likely to grow beyond 6 meters in height. So yeah, that just want to emphasize that the current rule is not a height maintenance rule, but more a planting species rule. So the effects of the shelter belt are intended to be managed at the time of planting. So yeah, a bit of in terms of timelines for PC25. So in August last year, Council resolved to undertake a plan change addressing a number of technical matters, including these crop protection structures and shelter belts. That was plan change 30. Following further staff consideration of the issues, council resolved, staff proposed and council resolved in June of this year to progress these topics as a standalone plan change, which created Plan Change 25. Brings us here. Last month, a workshop was held with elected members where we sought approval for the release of draft provisions with key stakeholders and mana whenua partners. These draft provisions were to provide a jumping off point for discussion and feedback. Direction from that workshop was to broaden the scope of that engagement to encompass the rural community more generally beyond those previously identified parties. So this, as Alice said earlier, this pre-notification engagement informs kind of the ongoing drafting of the plan change, and the public will have another opportunity to submit formally once the plan change is notified, which is scheduled for first quarter of next year. Also, in addition to our kind of that broader approach that I mentioned includes that wider approach includes we've got a Have Your Say page up, and then we've got a webinar planned later on to potentially answer some questions and clarify topics as they kind of come up. Yes.
So Nathan, we have the opportunity tonight to just listen and think about, you know, this plan change and then submit formally, or you're even open to hearing some of our considerations tonight as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're open to hearing
Okay.
your thoughts
Great.
tonight. And it's really in terms of what the committee wants,
Mhm.
sorry, the board wants to do
Yeah.
with regards to making a Have Your Say
Yeah.
feedback, or just provide it through the resolution of tonight.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you.
Cool. So just a quick word on the objectives of PC 25. It's to ensure that the use of rural land for primary productive purposes is maintained, that effects arising from shelter belts and crop protection structures are appropriately mitigated, that in addressing these activities, the district plan is consistent with national direction. So there are a couple of national policy documents that we're looking to respond to, and then to reduce unnecessary resource consent requirements. So that takes us through to the provisions.
Yeah. Right, so I'm just going to walk through the proposed provisions. Part of the package of information that has been circulated is a track change version of those, and also a practice guide in terms of a bit of explanation of what those changes would be. So in terms of the artificial crop protection and structures and shelter belts, as Nathan said, they're permitted activities or deemed permitted activities presently. That is not going to change in terms of what is being proposed, but there will be some changes proposed to bulk and location performance standards relating to these. Artificial crop protection structures will continue to be considered as buildings under the district plan, and again that then links it back to the bulk and location controls, those being controls like how far from a boundary, what height, and sort of site coverage if there's a bit controls, and height in relation to boundary, for instance. Part of the planning provisions that are being proposed is an introduction of a specific definition for artificial crop protection structures. Presently in the district plan, there's a definition for artificial screens. What we're proposing is removing that definition and replacing it with artificial crop protection structure definition, because at the moment the screen is a screen, it's just a vertical. The crop protection structures can be covered both vertically and or horizontally. So that's trying to encapsulate both of those activities into one definition. The part of that definition is relating to what covers an artificial crop protection structure, and that is a permeable material. And we are proposing to actually define what a permeable material means for the district plan, and that would be a material that it does not impede air, sunlight or water, and has a density that you can actually sort of see through as well. the artificial crop protection structure definition will specifically be not including greenhouses, glass houses, or plastic clad shade houses as part of that definition. The definition of shelter belt, there is already a definition in the district plan, and that is for a row of trees not more than 4 deep, planted for the purpose of providing wind, shelter and screening. That is not proposed to be changed. In the district plan presently for the identified landscapes and view shafts, there is a potential for visual impacts of these types of structures. The rules in the district plan presently control buildings and shelter belts in certain locations. That's not proposed to change. There is a resource consent requirement for artificial screens at the moment, and that will continue for artificial crop protection. Artificial crop protection structures. It's a bit of a mouth. Specifically, there will be resource consents required for any non-compliance and performance standards, which I'm going to go through next. Crop protection structures within the special landscape areas, as I've said, require resource consent. And there is also an introduction of a standard with regards to when an artificial crop protection structure is being proposed to be established and being screened by an existing mature shelter belt. What we are proposing is, if that's the case, the artificial crop protection structure could get closer to the boundary because it's screened, but proposing a resource consent trigger if after that artificial crop protection structure is actually established, that if the landowner then wishes to remove the shelter belt, that requires a resource consent. Just also to note, and that's presently in the district plan, but because artificial crop protection structures will also be deemed a building, the rules relating to cultural sites will continue to be applied, and that is that any building cannot be closer than 20 metres from a cultural site, and so that will apply to artificial crop protection structures too. Oh, sorry, maybe checking. So just to go through the crop protection structures, I'm mindful of our time, but in terms of performance standards, there's presently a building coverage standard for the rural zone that is proposed to be removed, and that removal is to avoid the functional loss of productive land for horticultural purposes, and that the setback from all property boundaries for an artificial crop protection structure will be 15 metres, unless that can be reduced, like as I said, if there was an existing shelter belt or the adjoining site is held in common ownership with the person who operation or who wishes to build the artificial crop protection structure, or the adjoining landowner has provided approval for that. What's being introduced is controls over the colours of materials that go over the post, pole and wire structures, and that set of colours would be for vertical cloth dark green or black, and for horizontal cloth white, dark green or black. So now I've just got a couple of photos just to give you an idea of the colours. Probably quite familiar with some of these, but just to really putting aside the locations, it's the colours that we were just wanting to show, and setbacks. So yeah, quite self-explanatory. Oh. And then that one is a horizontal cloth. There are no vertical sides to that one, but that is the white. Now throwing it around. Okay. So quickly moving through to the shelter belt planning provisions. Again, these provisions are to address visual visual amenity, road user safety and reverse sensitivity. What is presently in the plan, as Nathan has explained, is all about the species and how its mature height at what it will be, and then in terms of that planting using the right species. We're proposing to remove that 6 metre mature height control and replace that with a shade control, so that the shelter belt is to be positioned so not to shade either a dwelling or a paved public road between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on the shortest day of the year. In context, that is from the National Environmental Standard for commercial forestry. And so it's an accepted standard in terms of the period of time and the day that's chosen in terms of the extent of what shading would be. So that would be the maximum extent. Also, that shelter belts are not to be located to restrict site visibility, vehicle access, road intersections or railway crossings, not to be closer than 30 metres from an urban boundary or Marai development zone, and not to be within 10 metres of an overhead power line or telephone lines. Also being introduced is a minimum 4 metre setback within all internal boundaries. So the shelter belt would not be permitted as a right to be planted on the boundary. It would be set 4 metres in. That 4 metres has been estimated with regards to the requirement for maintenance. Again, that could be reduced if, for instance, the common ownership of the land, adjoining landowner approval, an easement to get access for maintenance on the other side, or that it is demonstrated that the shelter belt at its mature height can be maintained within the boundary of the property. So all of those things need to be factored in at planting. The other new rule relating to shelter belts is a maintenance rule, so that no vegetation is to extend over boundaries or roads, and any vegetation that falls onto an adjoining site is to be removed to try to avoid that amenity issue. And again, we've got some examples of some shelter belts. Sanitary. And that's just a catch-all page. So open questions now. So just in terms of the what's happening and where information can be found.
Great, thank you. Right, I'll open up. Anyone have a question you'd like to ask on this? Andrew might, or some comment?
I'm just interested, are there any current setback rules for these structures as a comparison for shelter belts or artificial crop structures or not?
Yes, there are, because the shelter belt has a planting height control. So if its mature height is 6 metres, it can be planted on the boundary. If not, there's no specific setback, but that would require resource consent. So there would be a discussion in terms of that. In terms of the artificial crop protection, that's deemed a building, which buildings require a setback depending on the size of the building under the rural zone.
With the shelter belt, so the current setback is no setback required with 6 metres mature height, and you're proposing to move that to 4 metres. Is under the new Bible for a shelter belt?
Under the draft district, draft proposed plan change, we're proposing to require the setback for a shelter belt to be 4 metres off the boundaries for maintenance purposes.
So currently there are shelter belts in place, and so you're concerned about the current maintenance of those shelter belts currently on the boundaries of, say, the public road? Like they're maintained now as on a boundary, so where's the problem lie there?
So I can't say it's a problem, but the feedback that has been received to date is that there can be issues with regards to ensuring that the person who has planted the shelter belt maintains that shelter belt in a safe manner and not imposing a maintenance issue for an adjoining property owner. So most shelter belts are usually trimmed because they are a shelter belt, and how you maintain a shelter belt for it to actually work is to keep it trimmed. But we would all know that there are examples out there that aren't trimmed and are higher than 6 metres, but they are existing situations. But the maintenance rule being proposed would apply, and that would probably come through someone complaining about their neighbour's shelter belt.
Is a hedge a form of shelter belt?
No. So we actually do have a definition in the district plan for hedge. And a hedge relates to a comparison of a fence, so a maximum height of, say, 1.8 metres. And its definition relates to being 1 deep. So a shelter belt is up to 4 deep of a row of trees. A hedge is 1 plant deep and the fence height.
Do you see a lot of like lifestyle people plant a shelter belt for wind protection of native species, shrubs? They might grow 6 metres tall, so therefore they could not do it on a boundary under the proposed bylaw. Is that correct?
Under the proposed plan change, that will be correct, without meeting the exceptions that I've run through already. So a lifestyle is the zoning of that property is exactly the same as a rural of the farm next door, for instance. It's all rural zone. Sorry, you might change on the same time as you.
Just a question. Are you hearing from people in the community, perhaps Andrew, you might be too, who are neighbours to some of these areas, having a preference for green or black versus white in regards to glare and just overlooking expansive views, and green and black kind of blending into the environment?
Yes, we have heard those views with the colours. The industry has a preference for white for their optimal growing.
Does it allow more light through?
It allows more
Okay.
light and I suppose heat and transfer and stuff like that. But that's the industry preference. We've also done some research with regards to what other district plans do in similar situations in terms of their crop protection, and some of them do also limit the white to the horizontal,
Okay.
so that there is some control. So when the looking down onto it is one thing, but looking through it.
True. Okay, thank you. Elise, did you have a question?
I have a list of questions. Thank you. Just regarding the cloth fabric, are there any provisions for maintaining that cloth to a certain standard over time? Like, as they get older, they can get a little bit covered in lichen and things like that. They start to look like a bit of an old trampoline net. Great expenses of it. I couldn't see anything in that plan change around that. So is there any ways that they are required to maintain it to a certain standard period of time?
Well, we haven't cast our mind to that, actually. To be fair, the district plan doesn't control the standard of a farm building once it's up.
Sure. Yeah.
So that hadn't come into thought of it. It's an operational. It's been considered that we've considered that the crop protection structures are a fundamental part of that operation. So you would consider that they would want to maintain it to a certain standard, and I'm assuming that there'd be a certain life variant warm cloth as well. But I mean, that's probably good feedback for us too.
So I guess it's
Take on board.
different to a farm building in that no farm building will ever have that same level of expanse, and maintaining a farm building would arguably be easier than maintaining hectares of cloth. So, and we're getting lots of lovely new cloth through the district at the moment. That lovely new cloth will be old cloth one day, and you'll be, I guess, different operators who may or may not replace that. I don't know anything about the industry, so I just wondered if that had been something you looked into.
It's a good point for us to
Sure.
to take. you.
On the same thought was, in terms of putting together this plan change, do you consult with the horticultural community as stakeholders at this level of work, or does that happen at the next kind of public consultation stage?
No, so the engagement that commenced this week is a 6-week period, and we have so in addition to the media release, the webpage, the social media, we've also sent letters out to both industry representatives like Hort New Zealand, fruit growers, Dairy New Zealand, Federated Farmers, but also the groups, the community groups that have been in contact with us and we are aware of to date, so that we've contacted them directly and are having dialogue with those people. And we understand that there's quite a good network within the community that is sharing the information. So we're expecting to be able to engage
So
widely.
these recommendations are sort of based on comparable plans at other district councils, as opposed to sort of things you've heard from the industry specifically so far.
So since 2023, there's been some dialogue with the industries and these community groups. So we've based our position at this point in time in terms of looking at what resource consents have been granted and the extent of any non-compliances, the industry requirements for optimal growing, for instance, as well, but also the concerns that have come through either through the notified resource consent submissions and the feedback from, or volunteered information, I should say, from the community groups. And that's where some of the setback for shelter belts and the concerns about shelter belts and boundaries have come through.
Thank you.
Unless anyone else has further questions on that last question she had or discussions, otherwise carry on. And I've turned off your mic.
Cool. The other question is around, so you now have removed that 6-meter height restriction on the shelter belts and sort of just said, provided it's a tree that doesn't grow more than 6 meters. The Waikato, sometimes things grow a lot taller than you might anticipate. Do you have any things in place that if that tree exceeds the 6 meter, is the landowner required to chop tops off? Or, because I noticed that photo you put up was an 18-meter high shelter belt, which you're obviously wanting to avoid happening. So is there provision to sort of enforce, well, I guess it wasn't clear to me that actually those shelter belts needed to stop at 6 meters in the current, in the new one.
So there's no height proposed.
So they can just go
As long as
fold.
they don't shade
Okay,
the adjoining house or a road
okay,
on the shortest day.
okay, all right. Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah. And if they do, flip off the tops.
Yes, yeah. So for instance, if it was shading and there was someone inquired at council and the enforcement people went out, it should only be shaded on the shortest day. So it's quite easy to monitor that.
Yeah, to fix that. Okay. The last question was about the color of the cloth. Not all greens are created equal. Have we got like is there a specific palette? Like I noticed that green was very kind of bright, appley green. The black in my mind was much more aesthetically pleasing, but also I don't grow fruit and fruits. So I would not want to say let's spend this color to look good, but is there going to be a little bit more guidance around what those cloth colors might be? I guess you'll learn this more by talking to them in this next phase, but that would just be something that I am interested in
So that's probably, that's also good feedback. So we've taken the wording from both the industry, which is dark green.
Yeah.
And that is what's used in other district plans as well. But yes, you're correct. There's dark green and dark green. So
Sure.
that's good feedback for us to consider and probably ask the industry.
Yeah, yeah.
as
And
well.
why not white horizontally? Is that considered to be less nice to look at? Sorry, vertically,
vertically.
thank you. Like,
Yes,
vertically,
that
horizontally.
is
Back
feedback.
to our sleep, guys.
So
Yeah, it's quite reflective.
Okay, like a clear.
Yeah, and
okay.
I'm not sure that it's as necessary in terms of letting light through the top.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, the dark green and the black tend to be easier to see through
see-through.
almost, yeah,
Okay.
despite being
Cool.
darker, so.
I also enjoyed the way you presented the changes in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was really nice and easy to navigate. We see some of these documents coming through, and sometimes it can be a bit like, oh, I'm there and I'm back. And so I thought that was really helpful. Thank you.
thank you.
I'm done, guys. Let's
No, excellent questions. Thank you. Andrew, Alana, Sue, anything?
Recently we've had some changes in the residential zone where we can develop residential lands to include 3 dwellings to a height of, can somebody help me here? What height they can build that up to? 9 meters, 3 stories, to within how close to the boundary? 1 meter, 1.5 meters. That flies in the residential zone, but when a rural business wants to put a structure up, you're telling them that they can only be 30 meters from an urban boundary. Why can an urban person build their apartment 1.5 meters from a rural boundary?
So we're saying that, and we're proposing that an artificial crop protection structure is 15 meters, but it's a shelter belt that be 30 meters, which is what is presently in the district plan. It's not apples, you're not comparing apples with apples when you're comparing rural zone and the residential zone or the medium density residential zone, or is what you're talking about. The activities are different, and the residential zone, as you're fully aware, in terms of the medium density, is a requirement, a mandated requirement council has had to take on board with regards to intensifying the residential opportunities for dwellings.
Yeah, I represent the rural ward, and I value the contribution equally of the rural versus the urban. There's a lack of highly productive soils, and soils to do horticulture on are very limited. And at the moment, they're being eaten up by residential development and industrial rezoning. So, if you have a residential land, you're looking to protect the urban user, perhaps with some of the wording in your bylaws. But I look at it from the other side of the fence, perhaps, to say, and that perhaps the setback should be on the urban side, not the rural side. If there's a rural business that 99.9% of the time birds are chirping and bees are flying, that's not too much of a disturbance to a urban user if it's close to the boundary. So I just want you to acknowledge that is maybe a view of a rural participant, rural business participant.
And I think our district plan does acknowledge that at the moment, because we have urban boundaries and rural, and the part of this plan changes is having full confidence on the highly productive soils and ensuring that they can be used. So horticulture is an industry that is becoming more so in Waipa. And so trying to provide as much productivity out of the rural area is key consideration.
I had a discussion with Keith Fruit Grower today, and he was just, the setbacks are quite onerous for the shelter belts when they're currently on the boundary. If it's from 0 meters to 4 meters, an example, like I'm a pastoral farmer, I have a large area to operate my business, so a setback like that is not a bigger deal. But for a highly intensive horticultural operation, which can actually be profitable to say have an orchard on 2 hectares, could be perhaps in the order of 5% of their productive land is removed by making the setback change, and that is a huge level of value that is affected, so needs to be considered.
Which is, yeah, and take that on board totally. We have looked at what existing horticultural blocks sort of setbacks they have at the moment from their productive and their shelter belts. So we've sort of, that's the part of the estimate of the 4 meters, but that is part of what we're doing in terms of this next 6 weeks, is to engage with everyone to get that feedback, to understand that, and is it necessary or not. So that's part of the discussion that we're having. So that's great feedback for us to take on board too. Thank you.
I saw reference to ice in your presentation from perhaps shading. Do you want to discuss that, or could you just clarify that further?
Yes, so probably not so much, but in terms of for long periods within the Waikato or Waipara in particular with this, but the shading can cause problems on roading and safety issues. So that and that in some areas that may not disappear during the day if that area is shaded. So that is the sort of concept with regards to having control over the shading extent on the shortest day.
Where I think about ice currently in the district is where there's high banks, roads that go around the sides of hills, large trees at intersections. None of those things will change and will not be asked to be, say, cut down or bulldozed by the council yet. It's referenced in this in regards to crop protection instructions as a reason to change. Do you think that's unfair to include that?
So the shading is for shelter belts, not crop protection structures. It's in terms of the National Environmental Standard, we are required to consider those effects with regards to forestry, if it was forestry. So we've taken on that approach to looking at from moving forward. Is that a good approach to provide some road user safety and provide a uplift of the amenity potential for an adjoining property? Again, this is all feedback. We'll be able to smooth out any of these potential issues.
Has there been an accident related to ice from a shelter belt or tree in the
I
Waipara?
can't answer that question. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
Right, any further questions? How are you guys feeling around how we would like to do this? Would you like to bullet point some thoughts tonight? Would you like to spend more time? Because we can just move to receive the report. We don't have to give any feedback tonight. We can spend some more time thinking about this and submit formally. Up to you guys.
I'm happy to go ahead tonight if you want to.
Yeah,
6 weeks, when does it close?
18th, sorry, 18th of October.
We'll just check.
okay. How are you guys feeling? Do you want to spend some more time thinking about this and put something together?
Yeah, on second thought, like I can hear from the rural people over that 6-week period, and that would help.
That would be very beneficial, yes. And within that period of time, we'll have the webinar up and people will have had time to digest, you know, the rural folk to digest the webpage information.
I think that's a sensible move. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was really interesting. Certainly gives us some things to think about and go away and consider, because it is something that is consideration to both people who use the land to farm and grow, but also people who live out there. So it's, yeah. Thank you so much to both of you. Appreciate that.
We appreciate it as well.
Thank you. Right, so let us just receive Alice's report. I'm happy to move that. Elise will second. All in favour? So we are not doing any feedback at the moment. We will do that next time. All right, second community board reporting, community services, district growth and regulatory services and strategy groups. So I'll hand back over to Jo for that.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report, this is the first one that is appearing on your agenda. The idea is that that each council group will give you its top, one or two projects or activities that are happening in your particular area over the next 6 months. So you've got in here community services, district growth and strategy, and then we'll have the other two groups next month. In terms of your strategy, you've already heard about the long-term plan in Ahawaki, and you have heard about plan change on and did your alcohol consultation last time. So those hearings will be coming up. So you're probably well familiar with those. Community services, Brad has provided some commentary in there on the Hades Lane toilet and Limington Domain playground. He unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. He really does send his apologies, and I have promised to take away any questions that you have, and we can get back to you those as soon as possible, and he will also be here next month. So I'm certainly happy to take anything away and get answers on those back to you next week.
Thank you. Any comments for Jo on those reports at all, Elise?
Just regarding the Helles Lane toilet renewal, will those plans come to us at any point before it's ticked off?
Good question.
Take that back to Brad. Yeah.
I just thought it was mindful for us to keep an eye on things like parking, which is an easy sacrifice in some of these projects, particularly if they're trying to improve pedestrian access, which we also think is great, but I know it's a very key parking area for our town. So I think we just want to keep an eye that wasn't being too impacted by the renewal, even though it's great to renew it. But I just thought if we can maybe keep an eye on that would be more important. That's all I have to say about that particular one.
Sorry, just also on the public toilet, can we request that there's a change table in there, please? There really aren't many publicly available change tables in the CBD.
So, worry about the change table. I mean, it's a long way up the other end of the park. Yeah, so I think that's good. I do think it's a really good idea. Because in this town, it's actually really hard to find a toilet. And you do get lots of people say, where is the public toilet? And actually, if there was a decent facility without having to walk too far from the shops, I think shopkeepers would be quite happy too. So sooner the better.
Thank you, Sue. Andrew?
Yeah, I just have a view to the contrary. I just feel that that bathroom. No. I'm happy for that. Like all that stuff can be added, new toilets, new basin, but that block's been there since before I was born. I've got no problem with it when I was born, no problem with it now. Why do we need to renew assets cyclically when there's actually nothing wrong with them? Like that, we've got no money. If it's okay, let's do what's required, but nothing more. So I don't think just cyclical renewal strategy to me is not right in this environment. Thank you.
That's something we could go back to Brad with. I'm sure he'll have a good reason. Yeah. Have you used that bathroom recently? Just out of interest.
Hey, Jo,
Please,
Oh,
Mike.
I was encouraging the group to think about both sides of the equation, but I'm definitely in favour of renewal on these. That toilet block is grim, and it's right in the middle of town.
It is rather grim, I must admit.
Access is a real problem.
Mm.
Yeah, like you do have to walk across an active road / car park.
Yes.
It's problematic.
Mm.
And to your point, there's not a lot of alternatives in the CBD. And if we want a vibrant CBD,
Mm.
a good old toilet kind of
Yeah.
ties in with that. But I hear your point. And I guess it's maybe not going for bells and whistles, but just
Mm,
a good, solid,
clean and
functional
basic.
unit with a change table.
Excellent. Great. Okay, anything further for Joe? Yes,
The
Elise?
Leamington Playground. That's really exciting. Is anyone else excited to see that on the list? I thought that's wonderful. And I know we had some really good feedback. I mean, this is for you, Joe, to take back to Brad. Like, it's good to talk to him. Some really good feedback from some residents who came and presented to us and had really insightful thoughts around that. They live on the Leamington Domain. I was just wondering if they're being pulled into any of that design process or at what points they're pulled into it. Be great for them to have early input, I think, versus when the money's being spent on the consultants and they've soaked a lot of hours into it and they're like, well, actually, that doesn't work. Just that local insight when people are living their day in, day out is invaluable, really, compared to what even the most skilled designer can bring. So I just think it'd be great to know what the plan is there, whether or not the board will continue to have a role to play in that next step, as we were involved in that early engagement, which was awesome. So just wondering if we have a role to play continuing forward there.
I think that's a really good idea. I know one of the ladies that actually came and asked about the playground, so I might have a word with her and say, hey, you know, keep your eyes peeled. You might want to say something. They will. They will, but
Right, I think that's us. Let's receive Joe's report. I'm happy to move that. Can someone second? I'll go Alana. Thank you. All in favour? Please say aye. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Right, Treasury report. Back to Joe for this.
This is your treasury report, the period ended 31st of August, which shows you your balances. And there, has anyone got any questions on anything in the treasury report?
No, all straightforward to me. Right, thank you. So we need to receive Nada's report. I'll move that. Elise, I will second. Yes, not as exciting, but still great. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Right. Board members' reports from meetings attended on behalf of the Cambridge Community Board. I'll go first. Armistice is well underway, so we'll probably cover a little bit there. Bohoro, the trip, Alana will probably cover that, but we've been doing quite a bit to get media releases and all sorts of things all sorted for that trip, which is next week. LTP workshops, the financial one and the, financial strategy workshop and the projects workshop. Both really interesting and giving a good picture of the direction of the LTP with a lot more to come. I attended the Hotapu Health event that was run by the Chamber, which was looking at some of the growth opportunities out in that C1 area. I fed that back to you guys, and really interesting to see some of the projects proposed for that area. And I think that's me. Alana, shall I carry on? We'll go around this way perhaps.
Thank you. Through the chair, I guess the big one has been the LGNZ/Community Boards Conference, which is really good. I'm still processing a lot of that and working on something that I can circulate to you guys. So hopefully you can make use of some of the resources as well. Yes, full steam ahead for Bohoro. I believe we're all organised. We head off on Monday, so wish me luck. Yeah. So it should be really good. We're visiting a lot of their public facilities, which should be really interesting to see. They've just added their library to the itinerary. So yeah, I'd be interested to see how they do that over there. And the planning for the Lukenwa delegation for Anzac next year has started as well. So yeah, lots of sister city stuff at the moment. Working with Global Cities New Zealand on their regional forum to be held at the Don Rollins Centre in November. So hopefully that's on everyone's radar, I'll be asking you to attend.
Can you remind us the date for that?
So that is the 8th of November. So it's the start of that armistice weekend. Yeah. Busy old time in Cambridge. Autumn Festival is well into planning for next year as well, mostly in the funding stages at the moment. And there've been a few different community events and stuff that have been happening as well, art exhibition openings and the Interlock Steampunk event, which is always a great day. So nice to get along and support those community groups. Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Andrew?
I just went to the Safer Cambridge Trust meeting tonight. There was a bit of talk there about a little bit of spike in retail crime, shoplifting in Cambridge. Other mentions were made about graffiti popping up around the place, specifically down the warehouse underground car park. It's often complained about there. It's sort of not well kept by the warehouse, and it attracts people down there. And there's quite a bit of graffiti down there. Still some homelessness or sleeping rough, or people sleeping out by choice going on. There was discussion about the bylaws about restricting, I don't know what the technical name for it is, but to avoid boy races and stop. So that's in place now. And Deb from Police was commenting about making their life easier to police those areas and issue tickets for those people. So that was that's something we discussed a year ago, and it's an action. So that's quite good for us. I kind of to see it rolling out. And what else? Eileen is a general manager there. She's been away on holiday. She's come back and she's quite motivated to get into a few things. She's going to be into her first aid courses, and she's proposing other ideas for the trust to look at, including loneliness or disabled specific campaigns. They're holding an event at Mangakawa on the 7th of November about rural safety, where they invite police, fire, the trust to be involved, and I've invited to the next meeting. It's a month from today, 4 weeks from today, Thursday at 4 p.m. Joe and Elise to attend the Safer Cambridge Trust to try and build a bigger connection with the Cambridge Community Board. So there's a formal invitation there. I'll confirm the date afterwards with you. I have been talking to farmers recently about the crop structures laws, pastoral farmers and horticultural growers, and they do have a different sides of opinion on that. So that's quite interesting. And over the next 6 weeks, as the council engages with them, I'm hopefully hear more, which will be good. I have been engaged in the background with a solar farm was proposed in Rotorangi, 100 or 200 hectare solar farm. I just had an email today to say that's off the cards completely. It's been too hard to progress, issues with the soil, connecting to the grid and other reasons. So that's off the cards at the moment there. I attended the Waipa Networks Trust AGM in Te Awamutu. They are employed with appointing the board of directors for Waipa Networks, the Lions company in our area. So I just went along to find out more from a personal and community board perspective about what the trust does and what they manage. And they do have support around the district for initiatives and funding. So there can be some tie-ins there. So good to meet and network with those people. Philip, as you've seen in the mail, has put his name forward for election for a position to their board, to the Network Trust Board. And so Murray Reid, who's been at a public forum before, has been engaging in conversation via email and phone to myself and other board members. So I have networked with him. He's got a particular concern in one area about Hayman Street in Leamington, where private properties have encroached on the verge and built fences and garden structures out onto the council verge. And he's been, I've prompted him to really follow that up with council. So he's been trying to do that and see where the jurisdiction lies and what should be happening there. It's quite an interesting situation, that's sort of well out onto the verge, right up to the footpath with fences and concrete gardens. So no, it's not on his property. It's rare. I haven't seen it anywhere else in Cambridge. It's quite unique. Heman Street. It's in the scheme of things, it's not a massive issue, but it is weird. And if everybody started doing it, there'll be a massive uproar. So he's trying to get to the bottom of that, and I'm leaving it and trying to help him do that. Thank you.
I was at the Tree Trust this week. They're very busy there, as usual. They're looking at doing some more planting in the area at the front of their building. They wanted to actually put in, they'd like to put a memorial seat there for one of their former workers, which is a lovely idea. The idea that that would become a bit of a park, which I think is quite a nice idea. Because it's a good halfway stop if you have walked up the hill from the shops. You do need a halfway stop. So that was one of the things. So that's something they're doing. And of course, they're terribly busy all the time. Every week you go there and they've come in, they've been planting, riverbanks and all sorts of places. Really, they do an amazing job. I attended a social services meeting a few weeks ago. I think homelessness has been one of the issues in the town. And so that's one thing. And I think, there's still I think there's still a bit of concern about what's happened to some people they had to, or villages and everything. There are good people out there who can an eye on for us. But I think any support you get to those social service agencies is much appreciated. Both materially and just, it's basically people.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Elise?
Nothing major for me except to signal that I know we don't oversee the pop-up community gardens, edible gardens anymore, and they're in the hands of the community, but I did just check in with them this week and they are struggling a little bit just to keep on top of them. So the main contact who was at the preschool is leaving that preschool, so whether or not the continuing contacts want to take it on board, and the other main guardian it's immature, so has been not able to maintain it. So I'll check in with them regarding if they can find some more support and maybe put a social media post out and see if we can find volunteers. People are always very positive about it, but showing up and taking the lead is another step. So if we don't get people who are able to kind of put the time into that, I would recommend that we look to revert them back to lawn, because I don't think we want our names on something that's not kind of thriving and flourishing. So if you're all happy with that approach, I'll just follow that up, and if we don't get the community buy-in, which it was always a pop-up in the title, doesn't have to last forever. So just thought I'd put that on your radars. It's maybe happening. And if you know people who might want to be involved, then let me know.
Thank you. Right, Mike, any council updates for us?
I was just going to highlight the two, and both of which you were at, Joe. So there've been two significant workshops. The first one was the open finance workshop, which Joe, I saw, sent an excellent summary of that around the community board. I thought that was a really great summary, and happy to answer any questions on that anytime that anyone has. And then more recently, we had the workshop looking at significant projects. Again, Joe, it was really good to see you sitting at the table there with the Te Awamutu Community Board as well. I thought that was really appropriate. There's a bunch of projects in that list that are of significance to this community board. And earlier on, you asked Melissa how best to be involved in the process, and that was kind of the first look at a number of those. And they're things like the food scrap collection, the potential for a roadside rubbish collection via council, not via private contractors, and the grants and funds piece of work, which directly affects the community board's discretionary fund. So that was the first kind of look at those projects in this LTP. I'd encourage you to just take a look at that. That's a public document. Again, it's not that long, and it's just sort of the first step on whether they're in or out of this LTP. So if the community board has any strong views on any of them, get in soon would be what I'd be advocating. That's me. Any questions?
Right, thank you. Any questions for Mike? And that document was the one I circulated to you guys before that workshop.
It was just a thought on the curbside food waste collection and yeah, it'd be interesting to flesh out if we had some thoughts around doing that differently to just having a truck move around, pick it up and ship it outside the district. Looking at local models that would be a lower cost to the ratepayer potentially. I don't know, it'd be interesting to take a potentially creative approach to that, a more local approach to that, with the hope of it being less expensive to the ratepayer and maybe having better compliance, because you know that curbside food collection often starts off strong but has a strong attrition rate. So yeah, it'd be interesting maybe if we think of things that we can get involved in, that might be one for us to think of.
Hey, on that one, there's no legislative requirement at this stage to do that, to do the food scrap thing. So that's the way we were heading, and it's no longer legislated. So sort of current indication is that might be one of the ones that's not being progressed. Okay.
It was legislated under the previous government, is that right?
Yeah, you're stretching my memory. I thought it was. I thought we had a date. Hopefully Kirsty's going to rescue me here.
Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, my understanding was that under the previous government, there would have been a requirement for it to come into effect in 2026, but there has been a change, and so at the moment there is no mandatory requirement.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Right, I think that is everything. Our next community board meeting is to be held at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 16th of October. And if no one else has any pressing issues, I'm just going to close with our closing karakia. Tipoi hihiri, tipoi rarama, tipo o ti whakaro, tipo o ti tangata, tipo o ti aroha, ko ene napo. I here nei I a tātou, mauri ora ki a tātou, humie, homie, huie, takie. May clarity be yours, may understanding be yours through reflection, through personal endeavour, through respect. These are the virtues that bind us as one. May we be filled with well-being. Join, gather, unite. Thank you, everyone. And that